the most disturbing song to hit the charts in the 70s.
Catch me playing with my ding-a-ling-a-ling, oh.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Except some songs took it too far. From the Beatles to Led Zeppelin, these band songs were seen as too explicit, too rebellious, or too dangerous. But did the bands work? Not even close. 20. Physical. Olivia Newton-John. 1974. Imagine a song so catchy, so upbeat, and so wildly successful, yet banned from radio. Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly what happened with Physical, a song that was simply too hot for some people to handle. At first listen, it seems like an innocent, feel-good hit, but under the surface, the lyrics were filled with suggestive undertones that raised eyebrows across the world. Some stations in the US refused to play it, and in conservative countries, it was completely pulled off the air. Yet banning the song didn't stop it. Instead, it exploded in popularity, spending 10 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It became Olivia Newton-John's biggest hit ever. And get this, she didn't even realize how risque it was until it was too late. In an interview, Olivia admitted, "I had no idea what I was singing about. I thought it was about exercise." If that's true, it's probably the steamiest workout song of all time. And it didn't just stop at radio bans. The music video added even more controversy, featuring muscular men in tight gym shorts. Critics lost their minds, calling it too suggestive for television. But here's the funny part. What was once banned is now played in fitness clubs all over the world. Turns out Physical got the last laugh. 19. Greased Lightning. John Travolta. 1978. What if I told you that one of the most iconic songs from Grease was too inappropriate for radio? Yep, Greased Lightning, the same song people dance to at parties, was almost too wild for public airwaves. The reason? The original lyrics were shockingly explicit for a 1970s audience. If you've only heard the radio or TV version, you might not even know how much they had to clean it up. The original lines contained highly suggestive content about the car, filled with double meanings that weren't so subtle. The producers of Grease fought to keep the song in the movie, but even the film had to censor parts of it to make it more family-friendly. And here's something even crazier. Greased Lightning was supposed to be sung by Jeff Conaway's character, Kenickie, not John Travolta. But Travolta, who played Danny Zuko, pulled rank and took the song for himself. The rest is history. Despite its bans and controversy, Greased Lightning became one of the most recognizable songs from the movie. In fact, even today, many schools performing Grease are forced to modify the lyrics just to get approval. Banned, censored, and rewritten, but never forgotten. And if you think this song caused a stir, just wait until you hear about the next one. 18. Lola. The Kinks. 1970.
I met you in a club down in Old Soho where you drink champagne and it tastes just...
Picture this, a song so catchy, so fun, and so widely loved, yet radio stations refused to play it. But why? Was it offensive? Violent? Nope. It was something even more controversial in 1970. It blurred the lines of gender identity. Lola tells the story of a man who meets a mysterious woman, except she might not be a woman at all. The lyrics dance around the topic with playful storytelling, making listeners wonder, wait, did he just realize something mid-song? When Lola was released, it was way ahead of its time. Many stations, especially in the UK, banned it outright for its unapologetic portrayal of gender fluidity. Some US stations followed, worried that it would be too confusing for audiences. But instead of vanishing, the controversy made it even bigger. Fans loved the song's cheeky attitude, and it climbed to #2 on the UK charts. Here's a little twist. Lola was actually banned for 2 different reasons. The BBC originally refused to play it. not because of the gender themes, but because it mentioned Coca-Cola in the lyrics. Why? The BBC had strict rules against product placement. So what did the Kinks do? They simply changed the lyric to Cherry Cola, and the song was back on the air. Banned, altered, and debated, but never ignored. 17. Love to Love You Baby, Donna Summer, 1975. Now, imagine a song so steamy that even radio DJs felt awkward playing it. That's exactly what happened with Love to Love You Baby, a track that didn't just push boundaries, it obliterated them. Donna Summer recorded the song in a dark studio, laying on a couch, channeling the full emotion of the lyrics. The result? Over 17 minutes of sensual moaning. Yep, you heard that right. The extended version featured nearly 3 minutes of breathy vocals before the first verse even started. It was unlike anything radio had ever heard. Some stations outright refused to play it, calling it too erotic for the airwaves. Even the BBC, known for banning suggestive songs, took one listen and said, "Absolutely not." But here's the irony. The bans only made people more curious. The song became an underground hit, and when clubs started playing the full 17-minute version, it exploded in popularity. Donna Summer later admitted that she had no idea it would cause such a stir. She said, "I was just acting. It wasn't real." But by then, the damage, or success, was already done. Not only did Love to Love You Baby become a smash hit, but it also defined the entire disco era. What was once too controversial became the blueprint for modern dance music. And if you think this one was bad, wait until you hear the next song that got banned for being dangerous to young minds. 16. Only the Good Die Young, Billy Joel, 1978.
Only the good die young. That's what I said.
What happens when a rock song dares to challenge religious values? It gets banned, protested, and ironically becomes even bigger. That's exactly what happened with Billy Joel's Only the Good Die Young. On the surface, it's an upbeat, catchy song. But listen closely and you'll hear a rebellious message. A young Catholic girl being urged to break the rules and live a little. That alone was enough to outrage religious groups across America. Catholic organizations called it anti-religious and morally corrupting. Schools banned it, radio stations pulled it from playlists, and the controversy exploded. Some churches even threatened to boycott radio stations that continued playing it. But instead of killing the song, the backlash did the exact opposite. Billy Joel later revealed the song wasn't a hit until it got banned. That's when people really started listening to it. The more people tried to silence it, the more popular it became. Before long, Only the Good Die Young became one of Joel's signature songs, still played on classic rock stations today. And here's a fun twist. Billy Joel actually wrote the song as a reggae track before switching to rock. But no matter the style, the message was the same. Sometimes telling people they can't do something only makes them want it more. Speaking of rebellion, the next song didn't just challenge authority, it attacked an entire monarchy. 15. God Save the Queen, Sex Pistols, 1977. Few songs have ever caused as much outrage and chaos as God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols. And when I say chaos, I mean literal riots in the streets. Released in 1977 during Queen Elizabeth II's Silver Jubilee, this song wasn't a tribute, it was a full-blown attack on the British monarchy, calling the Queen a fascist regime and declaring that England has no future. The song was so controversial that it was banned by the BBC and major retailers. But the Sex Pistols didn't care. They doubled down on the controversy, even performing the song on a boat on the River Thames right outside the Parliament. The result? Police swarmed the area and arrested several people. The British government and media tried to erase the song, refusing to print its chart position when it reached number 2 on the UK singles chart, losing to Rod Stewart in what many believed was a rigged result. Johnny Rotten, the band's frontman, later said, "We were banned from every venue, but it didn't stop us. The Queen's people didn't like it, but the public did." Even today, God Save the Queen remains one of the most powerful protest songs in history. The Sex Pistols weren't just banned, they were treated as public enemies. And if you thought this was the only song to make history by getting banned, wait until you hear what Chuck Berry did next. 14. My Ding-a-Ling. Chuck Berry, 1972.
Catch me playing with my ding-a-ling-a-ling.
What happens when a rock and roll legend records a song filled with double meanings? It becomes both a massive hit and a banned track. That's exactly what happened when Chuck Berry released My Ding-a-Ling, a song that made some people laugh and others completely outraged. At first listen, it sounds like a silly novelty song about a childhood toy. But once you hear the lyrics closely, it's impossible to ignore the suggestive undertones. Lines like, "Once I was climbing the garden wall, I slipped and had a terrible fall," made radio censors uncomfortable. Some stations refused to play it, while others only aired edited versions. But here's the craziest part. This wasn't just any Chuck Berry song. It became his only #1 hit on the Billboard charts. That's right, not Johnny B. Good or Roll Over Beethoven, but My Ding-a-Ling. Despite the bans, people couldn't get enough of it. The controversy only fueled more interest, and the song stayed at #1 for 4 weeks. Chuck Berry himself found the whole situation hilarious. He never confirmed nor denied whether the song was meant to be dirty, letting people make their own conclusions. But one thing is clear. My Ding-a-Ling turned into one of the most unexpected success stories in rock history. And if you think this was wild, wait until you hear about a song that was banned for literally being too dangerous. 13. Star Star, The Rolling Stones, 1973. The Rolling Stones have never been known for playing it safe, but Star Star, originally titled Starfucker, went too far even for them. It was so explicit that the BBC banned it immediately, and even their own label hesitated to release it. Mick Jagger didn't hold back. The lyrics were blunt, raw, and filled with details about rock stars sleeping with groupies. The song openly name-dropped Hollywood actresses and was packed with content that radio stations simply refused to air. Even Atlantic Records tried to stop the band from releasing it, urging them to change the lyrics. The Stones refused. Instead, they performed it live on stage, uncensored, making it even more infamous. The controversy wasn't just about the lyrics. Many were shocked by the aggressive, punk-like energy of the song, which felt far edgier than the usual Rolling Stones sound. Mick Jagger later laughed about the whole thing, saying, "If you ban something, people just want it more. We knew exactly what we were doing," and he was right. Despite the bans, the song became a cult favorite, proving once again that when you try to censor rock and roll, it only makes the fans love it even more. But if you thought this was controversial, wait until you hear about a song that threatened an entire government's stability. 12. Anarchy in the UK. Sex Pistols, 1976. What if a song wasn't just banned, but seen as a direct threat to national security? That's exactly what happened with Anarchy in the UK, a song so rebellious that radio stations and TV networks across Britain refused to play it. The Sex Pistols weren't just another punk band, they were a movement. And this song? It was their battle cry. With lines like, "I am an antichrist, I am an anarchist," it didn't take long before the British government considered it a dangerous influence on society. The BBC banned it immediately, and major record stores refused to sell it. But the most shocking part? The band's record label, EMI, dropped them because of the controversy. But instead of silencing the Sex Pistols, the band made them even bigger. Their next label, Virgin Records, saw an opportunity and re-released the song, turning it into an underground anthem. Punk fans bought it anyway, passing it around like a secret manifesto. Johnny Rotten later said, "They were scared of us, and that's why we won." Anarchy in the UK wasn't just a banned song, it was a symbol of resistance. And it proved that sometimes the more you try to shut something down, the more unstoppable it becomes. And if you think this song made authorities nervous, the next one got banned for making fun of the rich and powerful. 11. Tonight's the Night, Gonna Be Alright. Rod Stewart, 1976.
Tonight's the night.
Now here's a song that sounded romantic on the surface, but underneath, it caused a tidal wave of controversy. Rod Stewart's Tonight's the Night became one of the biggest hits of the decade, but not without raising some serious eyebrows. The lyrics tell the story of a man gently convincing a young woman to lose her virginity. Lines like, "Don't say a word, my virgin child," were too explicit for many radio stations, especially in conservative regions. Several US and UK broadcasters either banned it entirely or played edited versions that removed key lines. Despite the backlash, the song skyrocketed in popularity. In fact, it spent 8 consecutive weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making it one of Rod Stewart's most successful singles ever. Critics called it creepy, predatory, and tone-deaf, while others defended it as simply being about young love. Rod Stewart later shrugged off the criticism, saying, "It's a love song, that's all. People read too much into things." But the controversy refused to die down. The suggestive lyrics and whispered French interlude by his then-girlfriend Britt Ekland kept the song on the radar and off some radio stations for years. Still, Tonight's the Night proved that controversy often fuels popularity, making it one of the most talked about songs of the 1970s. 10. Jailhouse Rock, Elvis Presley, 1970.
Walking through a party in the county jail. The prison band was there, they began to wail.
Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was no stranger to controversy. But what if I told you that one of his biggest hits, Jailhouse Rock, was banned from radio stations decades after its release? Originally recorded in 1957, the song became a massive success thanks to its rebellious energy and iconic dance sequence in the movie of the same name. But as the years passed, radio stations started reconsidering its lyrics and themes. By the 1970s, some stations began pulling the song from rotation, claiming it glorified prison life and criminal behavior. The idea of prisoners dancing, partying, and even hinting at relationships behind bars made some people uncomfortable. But the bands didn't stop there. In later decades, after high-profile prison riots, Jailhouse Rock was completely removed from some playlists, especially in more conservative regions. Despite the controversy, the song never truly disappeared. It remains one of Elvis's most enduring hits, and in 2004, Rolling Stone ranked it among the greatest songs of all time. And here's a fun fact. Elvis actually hated lip-syncing and fought to perform Jailhouse Rock live in the movie. His dynamic performance helped redefine rock and roll stage presence forever. But if you think this was the only classic rock song to be banned, wait until you hear about the one that made radio DJs genuinely afraid to play it. 9. I Wanna Be Your Dog, The Stooges, 1973. Imagine a song so raw, aggressive, and primal that even rock stations felt uneasy playing it. That's exactly what happened with I Wanna Be Your Dog, a song that wasn't just banned, but feared. The Stooges were known for their wild, rebellious energy, but this track took things to another level. The hypnotic, relentless guitar riff, combined with Iggy Pop's low, menacing vocals, created something completely different from anything else at the time. But the biggest issue? The lyrics. The song wasn't about love, it was about obsession, submission, and raw desire. Lines like, "So messed up, I want you here," made radio executives nervous. Some called it too dark, too twisted, and too dangerous for public radio. As a result, "I Wanna Be Your Dog" was banned from major airwaves in both the US and the UK. But just like many songs on this list, the ban only made it more legendary. Iggy Pop later said, "We weren't trying to be shocking. We were just making music the way we felt it." And the world eventually caught up. Today, "I Wanna Be Your Dog" is recognized as one of the most influential punk songs ever, covered by artists from Nirvana to Joan Jett. But if you thought this song's bans were intense, wait until you hear about the one that had censors scrambling to erase it before it even hit the charts. 8. The Ballad of Lucy Jordan, Marianne Faithfull, 1979.
At the age of 37, she realized.
What if a song was banned not for its lyrics, but for the emotions it stirred? The Ballad of Lucy Jordan wasn't filled with explicit content. It was something even more unsettling, a haunting tale of mental breakdown and lost dreams. The song tells the story of a suburban housewife who realizes she will never escape her mundane life. The lyrics paint a vivid picture of her struggles, culminating in an ending that suggests suicide. Lines like, "At the age of 37, she realized she'd never ride through Paris in a sports car with the warm wind in her hair," were too emotionally heavy for some radio stations. It was considered too depressing, too real, too unsettling. In certain countries, the Ballad of Lucy Jordan was banned from radio rotation, with concerns that it might encourage suicidal thoughts. Some mental health organizations even pushed for its complete removal from airwaves. But here's the twist. The song was originally written by Shel Silverstein, the same man behind children's classics like The Giving Tree. The contrast between his usual whimsical work and this tragic ballad made the song even more intriguing. Marianne Faithfull's chilling performance made it a cult classic, proving that sometimes music that makes us uncomfortable is the most powerful of all. And if you thought this song was dark, wait until you hear about the one that literally tried to tear society apart. 7. I Am the Walrus, The Beatles, 1970.
I am he as you are, he as you are, me, and we are all together.
What happens when one of the most famous bands in the world releases a song that makes no sense, but somehow gets banned anyway? That's exactly what happened with I Am the Walrus, a Beatles track that confused, outraged, and fascinated audiences all at once. The song's lyrics are pure psychedelic nonsense, featuring lines like, "I am the Eggman, they are the Eggmen, I am the Walrus." But that wasn't what got it banned. The real issue? The phrase, "You let your knickers down." That one line was too suggestive for the BBC, which immediately pulled the song from the airwaves. But the irony? The rest of the lyrics were so bizarre and surreal that many listeners didn't even realize what was being censored. John Lennon later admitted that he wrote the song specifically to confuse people. In fact, part of it was inspired by a letter from a student whose English teacher was trying to analyze Beatles lyrics. Lennon thought it would be hilarious to write something completely nonsensical to mess with academics. Despite, or because of, the ban, I Am the Walrus became one of the Beatles' most mysterious and debated songs. Even today, fans still try to decode its meaning. But if you think this Beatles song got unfairly banned, wait until you hear about another one that was banned outright for being too dangerous to play. 6. A Day in the Life, The Beatles, 1970.
I read the news today, oh boy.
What if a song was so powerful, so immersive, that the government feared its influence? That's exactly what happened with A Day in the Life, a Beatles masterpiece that wasn't just banned, but considered dangerous. The song is split into two parts: John Lennon's dreamlike verses about life, death, and everyday monotony, and Paul McCartney's surreal sequence about waking up, going to work, and slipping into routine. But one line in particular got the song into serious trouble. "I'd love to turn you on." That one phrase was enough for the BBC to pull it from the airwaves, claiming it encouraged drug use. And honestly, they weren't wrong to think the song had psychedelic influences. The entire track builds into a chaotic orchestral climax, creating a feeling of complete disorientation. Even more controversial was the final crashing piano chord, which lasts for nearly a full minute, leaving listeners in a strange, dreamlike state. Some conservative groups feared that listening to it could alter minds. The Beatles, of course, denied that it was about drugs. But Paul McCartney later admitted the BBC were looking for drug references, and they found one. Banned or not, A Day in the Life remains one of the most groundbreaking songs in history. But if you think this was the most controversial Beatles track, wait until you hear about a song that was too explicit for entire countries. 5. Je t'aime, moi non plus. Serge Gainsbourg and Jane Birkin, 1976.
Je t'aime, oui je t'aime.
Imagine a song so sensual, so explicit that governments completely banned it. That's exactly what happened with Je t'aime, moi non plus, a song that was deemed too scandalous for public airwaves. The track, sung by French icon Serge Gainsbourg and English actress Jane Birkin, wasn't just a love song, it was an audio experience of intimacy. Gainsbourg's deep, hushed vocals paired with Birkin's breathy whispers made it clear. This wasn't just about romance, it was about passion. Some called it the most erotic song ever recorded, and the Catholic Church immediately condemned it. Italy, Spain, Sweden, and even the UK banned it outright. Some radio DJs who dared to play it were fired on the spot. Even Birkin herself admitted, "I was a little embarrassed, but Serge told me it was beautiful, so I trusted him." And despite, or because of the bans, the song skyrocketed to the top of the charts in multiple countries. The controversy only made people more curious, and soon black market copies were circulating everywhere. Some hotels even banned guests from playing it in their rooms, fearing it would encourage inappropriate behavior. But love it or hate it, Je t'aime, moi non plus proved one thing. Sometimes banning a song is the best way to make sure everyone hears it. And if you thought this song was scandalous, wait until you hear about a punk anthem that was seen as a full-scale attack on society itself. 4. Piss Factory. Patti Smith, 1974.
16 in time to pay off. I get this job in a piss factory in Spain.
What happens when a song isn't just controversial, but outright refuses to follow the rules of music itself? That's Piss Factory, Patti Smith's spoken word, punk-infused rant that was so raw, so brutally honest, that many radio stations wouldn't even consider airing it. The song is a rebellious, poetic explosion, detailing Smith's experiences working in a factory as a teenager. But unlike most songs about the struggles of working-class life, Piss Factory doesn't sugarcoat anything. It's filled with anger, frustration, and a deep sense of defiance. Lines like, "You got pain in your heart and your hands, and I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna be somebody," resonated deeply with young people who felt trapped in dead-end jobs. But to radio executives, it was too harsh, too messy, and too anti-establishment to be allowed on the air. The biggest issue? The song's raw, unfiltered language. Some stations found the title itself so offensive, they refused to even mention it. But despite the bans, Piss Factory became a cult classic, especially among the underground punk fans. Patti Smith later became a punk icon, proving that sometimes the most powerful songs don't need airplay, they just need the right people to hear them. And if you think this one was rebellious, wait until you hear about a song that mocked Hollywood's elite and nearly got buried because of it. 3. Walk on the Wild Side, Lou Reed, 1972.
Holly came from Miami, FLA. Hitchhiked away.
Some songs tell stories. Others force you to see the world differently. Walk on the Wild Side was one of those songs. a smooth, laid-back track that hid some of the most controversial lyrics ever aired on radio. Lou Reed's lyrics paint a vivid picture of New York's underground scene, referencing transgender women, sex work, and drug use, all at a time when those topics were considered completely off limits for mainstream music. Lines like, "Holly came from Miami, FLA, hitchhike her way across the USA," were about Holly Woodlawn, a transgender actress from Andy Warhol's Factory. And "Candy Came from Out on the Island" was about Candy Darling, another Warhol superstar. For 1972, this was groundbreaking and deeply controversial. Some radio stations censored certain lines or refused to play the song entirely. But the biggest uproar came when people realized the meaning behind giving head in the lyrics. That line alone got the song banned in several places. But Lou Reed never backed down. He later said, "I wanted people to know what was happening out there. And if they didn't like it, too bad." Despite the bans, "Walk on the Wild Side" became one of Reed's most famous songs, proving that sometimes the best way to break barriers is simply to tell the truth. And if you think this was controversial, wait until you hear about a song that was literally pulled from the airwaves for being too suggestive. 2. Black Dog, Led Zeppelin, 1971.
Hey, mama said the way you move don't make you sweat, don't make you groove.
What if I told you that one of the most iconic rock songs of all time was too suggestive for radio? That's exactly what happened with Black Dog, a song that was banned from several stations due to its raw, animalistic energy and provocative lyrics. At first glance, the lyrics might seem cryptic, but once you break them down, it's clear Black Dog is dripping with innuendo. Lines like, "Hey, hey mama, said the way you move, gonna make you sweat, gonna make you groove," left no doubt about what the song was really about. Some conservative radio stations pulled it from playlists, claiming it was too suggestive and fueled wild behavior among young listeners. Others were more concerned with the hypnotic driving beat, which made it feel almost trance-like, something that made parents in the 70s very nervous. But as always, banning a Led Zeppelin song only made it more legendary. Instead of disappearing, Black Dog became a concert staple, one of the band's most recognizable riffs, and an anthem of rock rebellion. Robert Plant later said, "We weren't trying to be dirty, just real." But by then, the controversy had already cemented Black Dog as one of the greatest rock songs ever recorded. And now we've arrived at the most controversial banned song of the 1970s, a track so scandalous it had to be censored just to be played anywhere. 1. Bennie and the Jets, Elton John, 1973.
Hey kids, shaking this together, the spotlight's hitting something.
It's hard to believe that Bennie and the Jets, one of Elton John's most famous songs, was almost buried by radio stations. But that's exactly what happened when some censors misunderstood its meaning entirely. At first, many thought the song mocked the music industry, portraying Bennie as a futuristic, manufactured rock star, a commentary on how the industry churned out fake talent. But the real controversy came from its lyrics, which some interpreted as promoting drug use and rebellion. Lines like, "She's got electric boots, a mohair suit," and "We'll kill the fatted calf tonight" were seen as coded messages about excess, drug culture, and the wild, uncontrolled lifestyle of the 70s music scene. In response, some radio stations banned it outright, worried that it would encourage young listeners to idolize reckless behavior. Even Elton John himself was surprised by the reaction, later saying, "I never thought of it as controversial. People just read into it what they wanted." Despite the bans, the song became a massive hit, thanks to constant demand from fans. In fact, it's one of Elton John's most streamed songs today, proving that no amount of censorship can stop a great track. Music history is full of surprises, and I've got plenty more for you. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into legendary songs. Which band track shocked you the most? Let's talk in the comments.